Hello and welcome back to my studio. Today I'm going to be painting a sleeping cat portrait in acrylics on a canvas panel in an Impressionist style, 12 by 12 inch. Now, a short while ago I painted a similar sort of a painting, a sleeping cat, in oils. So I thought this would be a good opportunity to show you the differences, the advantages and disadvantages of using oils versus acrylics. And each have their good points and their bad points. So anyway, I hope you enjoy it. Now let's get painting. Okay, so I've already drawn out the cat onto the canvas and I'm now giving it a coat of acrylic gloss medium to seal the pores of the canvas. And while it's wet, I'm going to add some burnt sienna to give it a nice warm imprimatura. Once that's completely dry, I then start re-adding some of those details. I don't want to lose them in the painting, and so I'm putting in the darkest areas first, the darkest important areas, which are the eyes, the nose and the mouth. So just putting the darkest areas of those points in, because they've got to stay and remain accurate throughout the entire painting. Because it's most important, as in any portrait, whether it's an animal or a dog, the eyes and the nose and the mouth are the most important items for you to keep aware of, that they have to be absolutely bang on, total accurate. So with my large brush now, I'm going to do a dark background. This is Payne's grey, just loosely knocked in, with a large 1 inch thick bristle flat brush. I want it dark in that corner. I need it dark under the chin and the pores there and the furs, and then being blended out there. And a little mid-tone shadow put in. I'll add 1 or 2 of those elsewhere as well. And then I'll put in some lighter mid-tones. And while that paint's wet in that bottom corner, I'll just scratch my name, as I usually do, with my bradawl. Now I'm going into the cat's fur, which is in there's a lot of white fur in this cat, so the mid-tone is going to have a bluey sort of tint to it. Any areas in shadow of that white fur will come out as blue, basically, and Payne's grey and white creates a wonderful blue. You can use it for all sorts of things, and then just darken it up a little bit here and there to create those little areas of blended darkness. I'm not actually blending at all. I'm just using this brush really quite bold, and with the white paint now I can flick the paint up and make it look like fur. This bristle brush is brilliant for producing fur edges. It does it almost on its own, really, without you having to do any work. Bristle brushes are great to use with acrylics, but you have to take care of them and be aware that water can damage bristle brushes. It makes them quite soft, really, but for acrylics, if you look after them, they should be okay. So I washed them immediately after using. So with this, still with this one big brush, I'm just putting in some basic colours of the cat now. It's going to have colours on the face and the head there, and a little bit in the body. But I'm just putting in the darkest areas of those colours now. So I start off with a mid-tone. If you can start a painting using the mid-tones, well, ideally you should always start a painting with the darkest areas first. But then you go on to mid-tones, and it's up to you to decide from your reference, or whatever you're going from, what colour you're trying to do. What is the mid-tone? What's the bit between the light and the dark? That's what you need to paint in first. Then it's easy to go over with the lights and the darks to create the form. So I'm just putting in the darks once again in the second layer now. So that layer in the background had dried, so I'm going over it, and the same with this. On the head it's dry, so I can go over it with a slightly darker layer. And I can adjust this as we go on, as it progresses. A little bit of blue there into that muzzle, and then a slightly lighter colour for the muzzle, and little areas where the light is catching on the white fur of the face. Now I will go brighter with this later on, but at the moment this is a mid-light tone. Same with the lower lip, the chin. Now that will change, it's a bit too hard-edged, it needs to be softer. So I'm just going to put in those darks once again, because they become lost because I've painted over them, so I just need to put them back in. Again, being very, very accurate with those marks. Now when that layer is completely dry, and I mean totally dry, I give it a layer, or paint a layer of acrylic retarder, which is acrylic retarder 60% and flow formula 40% over the entire painting, and then I can start going in with those colours once again. And this time I can slightly go over edges and things because it can start to blend now with the brush. Really quite nicely, very like oil paints. So I'm going to slowly build this up now, build these dark areas up with this big brush again. I'm not tempted to go down to small brushes just yet. I will do soon, but not just yet. They tend to be in the later stages. For the now, I'm just still knocking in these large areas with this brush. And the more you can do with a large brush, the better. Try to withstand going to a smaller brush for as long as possible, really. Do as much of the painting as you can with a large brush. If you want to get that loose Impressionist oil painting style and technique. So I'm just putting some lighter oranges now into the face where the light is going to be picked up on the face. The light is coming from above, but it's also being bounced off the floor onto the face of the cat as a slight uplight. And each time I'm going over these layers, I'm adding a little bit of extra paint and little marks all the time. They're all adding up. Although this layer is still wet at the moment, it will take a long time for this layer to dry. Now I've put the retarder on. It will take about 20 minutes to half an hour for it to dry off. Probably even longer than that, which should be ample time for you to do work into it. I mean, one thing about acrylics is you have to learn how to paint quicker. One thing you must learn is paint more quickly. And you'll find it's actually much easier if you do, because the paint is easier to blend and move around. Doesn't have time to dry. Okay, just subtle little dashes and dots with this brush now. I want this background to be almost ethereal as it's blending off into that background. I'll also add a little bit of green here and there, little marks of green. Then what I'm going to do then, put into the foreground as well, I'm going to get a soft fan brush and just start to blend that very, very lightly. Go over it, and you can see because it's all wet still, it blends superbly because of that gel retarder, the acrylic retarder. So that's a nice soft background, and now when I put in these strong, thick lights, they'll stand out. I'm down to a smaller brush now. This is a small bristle brush again. And the paint is quite thick. I'm not adding any water to this paint at all. It's almost straight from the tube. So, but you can see how easy it is to blend with it now. It's very, very nice to blend. It's just like oil paint now. And so people say they complain, you know, it dries too quickly and they haven't got time to blend with it. It's two things: use a retarder and learn to paint more quickly. Those are the secrets. The secret behind blending with acrylic. And keeping everything moist, really, as well. If it does start to dry up, then you can give the entire painting a slight mist coat of water. And I mean mist, just to dampen it, not to wet it. And it will stay wet and usable for ages like that if you keep it moist. Remember, acrylics and their mediums dry by evaporation, so if you can reduce that evaporation, you can lengthen the time in which to use the paint. It's a simple process, really. I just need to do something now with this lower chin, where it's resting on the ground. It just needs to be a little blurred edges is much better than the sharp edge, so that's better. I'm going to add a few blues into this area, bluey greys, and lighten up some of those parts of the white coat, the white markings. I can start to get really quite broad and bold with these brush marks now, these brush strokes. Put some really bright oranges in there for the tips of the ears and get this nose a little bit more pink because it was too red. A nice pinkish tone, and blend those ears in now. And then those highlights where the light's catching the orange of the mask of the cat. And now re-establish those darks again of the nostrils, just to make sure that I've got that bit more accurate and I haven't lost it. And put the mouth in again as well. Like that. Now I'm just going to soften the edges of the eyes here because I'm making them dark again, but they need to be softer edged. So I'll just use a mid-tone, a colour between the dark and the light around it, just to soften them. And it's still wet, so it blends really nicely. I'll do some highlights on the nose as well to give that some shape, to re-establish the shape of the nose and the shape of the nostrils. These are all tiny little details that you must never overlook. It's easy to overlook something when you're doing a painting and forget about it until you've finished, and you look at it and think, oh, I wish I'd have done that, you know. It's all too easy to forget. So be aware of every area of the painting. So I'm putting in, with this bristle brush, some even thicker lights now. That paint underneath is still wet, but it's building it up. It's building up those layers of paint to create the thickness that I want, the texture. You can add texture paste to acrylic to do this. I'm not bothered at this point in this particular painting in doing that, but I will show you that in another painting, how to use texture paste. Okay, so that's brought the lights out there. You see the brush strokes with a bristle brush really do still show through. They get lost when you're using a nylon brush. They don't tend to show the actual brush strokes themselves, but the bristle holds on to that. And especially with Impressionist painting like this is what you want. You want those brush marks to show. But it's a painting, not a photograph. It's a painting. And added a little bit of cadmium orange, transparent cadmium orange into that white, just to give it a little warmish tint. Only a tiny bit. It just warms up those lights. Just that little bit. There. Then if I go in with a lighter colour, it does stand out then. You can see how a lighter whiter colour, more white added to that mix will really bring that out. Trying to be bold with the brush strokes again now, so each brush stroke is carefully thought out before applying it, and applying it boldly. Okay, you can see how I'm not fiddling with these marks, I'm being quite bold with them. Loose and bold brush strokes are important in an Impressionist style painting. Let's get some real blues going on in here, because I don't think it's... Those blues really bring those white areas to life. So just little bits here and there. And I'll need to blend those in. I'll have some blues over there. Like that. And then this added here and there. I need to go perhaps a little bit more green with it as well. Little bits of green here and there added, and I blend it with a lighter colour now. And little highlight areas. Too bright, just take it down with my finger like that. Now with a liner brush, I'm going to, or a rigger brush, I'm just going to put in some of these whiskers. And the paint has to be very liquid for this to work correctly, for it to come off the brush. So it should be really quite runny. Okay, and I apply these all over the place just to make it a nice furry cat, basically. There's always stray hairs. Always. And it's great to put those in. I'll just highlight the edges of these ears once again just to bring them out. A few more whiskers and hairs. And there's one or two hairs on the brow as well, which I'll put in a moment. On the edge of the foot, the paw there. And fine-tune little areas, and then I like to use these little squiggles and dots and dashes just to create a random nature to the painting, which gives the fur and gives the cat movement. This is why I do it. Not too much, be very subtle with it. Now some of these whiskers on the brow. If it's too much, just use your finger and dampen it off. You see that's a little bit too bright, so dampen it down a little bit here and there. I only want one or two of those showing. And then some whiskers in the ear. I'm going to put some leaves in as well, using warms and cool greens, just as a background, and I'll be quite bold with these brush strokes. Because it's the cat we're interested in. This is just giving the nature of the background. And then some really quite bright lights, bright greens to show the highlights on the leaves catching the sunlight. In Impressionist style, of course. Then with my fork, I'll just go over the entire painting here and there. Not everywhere. You see, I didn't like that leaf. I just scrubbed that out. Not everywhere. And don't go mad with it. It's very subtle, this sgraffito technique. And then I just need to do some highlights on the nose. Bring them out once again, very bright. And when I'm happy with that, I think that's the painting finished. Well, I hope you enjoyed watching this video and hopefully found it rewarding and entertaining. Let me know if you have any comments or questions that I may be able to help you with. And I look forward to you joining me on my next painting video. So until then, have a lovely day and happy painting!